Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Charlotte Kan, and to celebrate International Women's Day, I am delighted to be hosting a conversation about women in tech. Joining us today are two ladies making their mark on the sector. Pamella Barotti is Head of Customer Advocacy at Microsoft UK. Pamella has nearly 2 decades of experience in technology, financial services and fintech, covering both local and global markets. Pamella is a global leader, the winner of several awards for her accomplishments in her career and community, including the 2022 Microsoft Gold Club, the 2021 Tech Women 100, and the 2020 Chartered Institute of Marketing Volunteer National Awards, just to name a few. Thank you so much for joining us, Pamella.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Also joining us today is Julie Rudd. Julie is Vice President of Global Customer Support at Elastic, the free and open search and analytics solution. With more than 25 years of experience in technology, Julie is a seasoned global leader with expertise in customer support. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
A very warm welcome to you both. But before we kickstart this conversation, a few facts about women in technology. According to the World Bank, women make up less than a third of the global workforce in technology-related fields. Women hold 28% of all jobs in computer and mathematical occupations, and about 16% of jobs in engineering and architecture. Furthermore, Women Tech Network analysed a sample of nearly 5,000 profiles from 54 different tech companies recently, and found out that 70% of job cuts affect women in technology. So clearly, there is a problem here, but also maybe a missed opportunity. And we're here to discuss potential solutions, of course. So Pamella, as mentioned in my introduction, the state of play for women in technology is far from satisfying. I mentioned some shocking figures, let's face it, and it's still very much a male-dominated industry. So what are the key challenges faced by women at present in the domain of technology in particular?
Sure. So I think first I just want to emphasize that what I'm sharing here are my own views, right? I'm not necessarily talking about on behalf of Microsoft. So I think from research and from my own experience is that I think the challenges could be classified in three main areas. So there is first, right, is the lack of role models. So if you don't see someone like you doing a certain job, might not occur to you that you can do that. That also has an impact on the mentoring and then sponsorship. That also helps women to prepare and land a career in tech and also progress in the corporate world. Second, there is also the gender bias, right? And I think that's just not just for women in tech, but we see a lot still happening in the industry. Better than before, but it's still an issue. And the next part, it is also the imposter syndrome, right? And of course, imagine if you're a woman, right? If you don't see someone like you, if you don't have someone like you as a role model, right? If you're treated differently in the workplace, of course that your imposter syndrome is going to increase. Right? So I think these are some of the key challenges that we face.
Just a few, but key challenges. I mean, they are big challenges, aren't they? And it starts very early on, doesn't it, Julie, with less and less young girls choosing careers in STEMs.
Yeah, particularly in Europe and America. So we don't have enough girls coming through the school system with STEM education, with going into STEM careers. In Asia, it's a more balanced outlook. So yeah, we do have some. I think we have a PR problem with the tech industry with our young girls, and trying to get more girls going into that kind of career line.
Absolutely, and I think if I build on what Julie just shared, it's absolutely right. I think the lack of awareness is an issue. Right. So for me, I'm very passionate about it, going to schools and even universities and talking about it, what, a career in tech looks like. Right. So first of all, every single industry is touched by tech. Second of all is, if you work in tech, you can certainly have a technical role, but you can also have a business role. Right. You can have a marketing role, finance, a HR. So pretty much anyone could have a career in tech.
And there's also the issue of funding, I guess, for women entrepreneurs in particular.
Yes, yes. So, like we were talking earlier about the
Yes.
gatekeepers of the finances, the gatekeepers of the investment tend to be men. So, because it's predominantly men, that bias starts pulling in again. So, women don't get the same amount of they don't get the biggest slice of pie, put it that way, when it comes to financial investment.
And it's shocking, right? Because I think since 2018, the funding raised by women declined from 3% to 1%. And that is really sad because actually the funding available has increased, but we still look at it, the portion that goes to teams of it, female only workers is still declining.
And other than the missed opportunities we mentioned here, another problem is the fact that if the world and new technology is designed by men, surely women are going to miss out.
Yeah, and when you look at the numbers, of women in technology, it's about 30%. When you look at developers and women in a technical role within the technical industry, it's even less. So we have even less women designing the software than we do working in the industry. So if you think about the potential for AI bias in the software that we produce, it's really quite high. And like you said, tech touches every industry. It touches medical, it touches retail, it touches everything. So when you're designing software, you're not designing for potentially 50% of the population, which I think is a problem. And going after from a business perspective, it's trying to capture that market and encourage the commerce that's on the flip side of producing software. So going after the pink pound is also something that we have to think about. So it impacts the bottom line.
And as a trained engineer, have you seen instances of obvious biases written in the programs by some of the male engineers?
It's not as blatant as that. There is subtleties in there. But yes, you can see in the way things are designed and the way that things are positioned in the software are definitely in a male orientation.
There are lots of discussions when it comes to women's empowerment around the themes of equality and equity. I was wondering if you could maybe offer a definition. What's the difference between them?
Yeah, it's like, even when I talk about equality and equity, and I've spent a lot of time talking about these things, I always like, right, which is which. So equality is where everyone gets the same and everyone gets treated equally, which sounds like a really great thing, but not everybody needs the same support or the same investment. So equity is where you're delivering what that person needs to be successful. And it's not just gender, it's anybody in the workplace. If you go onto Google and you kind of search for equity versus equality, you usually get a cartoon. And there's 3 people stood at a fence trying to watch a ball game. There's someone who's there like 6 foot, there's 5.5 foot, and there's a 5 foot. And the fence is just under 6 foot. So the 6 foot guy can see the game, and it's great. Equality is where you give each of those people a box, which is great. So the really tall guy can still see the game. The 5.5 foot guy can now see the game, and the short guy still can't see the game. Equity is where you don't give the 6 foot guy a box. You give the 5.5 foot guy a box, and you give the 4 foot guy 2 boxes. So now everybody can see the game. And that's where we are now. We're trying to figure out how to be equitable in the workplace. Where we want to get to is there's no fence, right? So no one has to have an extra box to get forward because the bias is not there anymore and people are treated equally as well. And the other thing is when you talk about things like inclusion and diversity, the best analogy I've got for trying to explain what that is diversity is being invited to the party. Everyone gets invited to the party. And I think we're getting better at that. Inclusion is where you get asked to dance when you get to the party. And unfortunately, we're not there yet.
Pamela, I was wondering if you could follow up on this.
Absolutely. And I love the analogies. Okay, I might borrow that in the future. But I think also, it's important as well to think about it, the minorities, but also, people with disability, right? So, research shows that there are around 1 billion people in the world with certain type of disability, right? Because not all disability can be seen. Right, and if you think about it, all these people, they have families and friends and colleagues. So whether you like it or not, we're all in this together, right? And I think back to what you said, making sure that you have an environment where you invite people, but also make sure they can equally participate in the workplace, in the society, it's a must for everyone to thrive.
So what can we do to address some of the challenges we've mentioned earlier here? What are the potential solutions, especially from a corporate organization perspective?
So I think again, for me, there are three main areas, right? I think first of all, it's very important for organizations to have it, the gender balance as one of the corporate goals, right? I think we're getting better at it, but you'll be surprised. Not every organization has. And regardless if it is a startup, a medium size, or a global company, right? I think every company should have that as a corporate goal. Second is really about it providing opportunities for women to develop and become senior leaders, right? So whether it's through shadowing or mentoring or stretch projects, really make sure they're being prepared for the next step, right? And I think last but not least is really making sure that the leadership is showing the way. Because if you look at it, still, right, senior leaders or even mid managers, most of them are still male. And they are the ones who are going to promote the women, right? So it's important for them to be aware of that and really make sure that the environment it works for women, right? I think back to what you said, right? Not just inviting to the party, but invite them to dance, right? And I think there is also a responsibility of we women, right? Because I think, yes, there is organization, right? And there is some things that we needed to do, right? So first of all, I really encourage women to find a mentor, right? There are so many opportunities. Even Microsoft, you have the Tech Her, which is a platform. You can find mentors. You can find your community. You can learn skills. Then, of course, skills. So if you wanted to be, in the top of your game, you have to learn new skills, and there's so many training available. And last but not least, it is really about having the courage and the confidence to challenge the status quo, to challenge the imposter syndrome. I'm not saying it's easier, right? I'm not ignoring the challenges, but I think let's focus on the areas that we can control.
Julie, quite often women's progress within the corporate world in particular is hampered by having children. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what do you advocate in terms of parenting leave?
Call it parenting leave. It's the first thing. So there's still a lot of companies out there that call it maternity leave, which immediately there's the bias towards the woman. So parental leave, is the labeling and what you say is really important, and make it equitable, right? So give the men in your organization the same opportunity to have parental leave as the women, and promote that, and make sure the leadership team understand how to manage that as well. Because again, parental leave has this, there's a cost, right, to the business, especially if you're a manager of a team and you've got people going out, is kind of training your leadership team on how to manage that appropriately. And the other thing is as well, when you just going back to some of the points that you were making, Pamela, when you're especially if you're a leader within an organization, is kind of educate yourself. Okay, so it's not just about gender, it's about disability, it's about race, it's about sexual orientation. Is to kind of pay attention and learn and read. It's not just the women, but the men in the room as well. So unconscious bias training is really powerful, and do it on a regular basis and remind yourself. Become a sponsor of a woman as well, and be a champion of a woman. Excuse me. And then, and if you've got ERGs within your organization, whether it's gender, whether it's sexual orientation, or any of the any ED&I efforts that you've got going within your company, show up, listen, ask questions. It can be quite scary, particularly for men, if they show up to a gender conversation. They're terrified they're going to step on a landmine and say something wrong, but asking the questions and showing up and taking an interest is half the battle. And then as you're kind of promoting people, and you're going through a promotion or a compensation cycle, or you're hiring, or you're going through a performance review, bring your biases to the surface. We've all got them, right? They're all natural and they're normal and they're human. But as we enter into these, particularly these key stages, whether you're hiring promoting or giving a performance review is to kind of make sure that you're being very conscious about the biases that you may hold, right? So if I'm a white female, what bias do I have against someone? And I'm white straight female, so my privilege is higher than most, right? So when I'm entering into my promotion cycle, just bringing to the forefront that I've got a very, very diverse team who are they're in 25 different countries, sexual orientation is all different. So making sure that as you enter into those key moments, you bring all that bias to the forefront so you can manage it. And you're doing it with an awareness. And I think that's a really powerful thing for anybody, especially in a leadership role, can do.
Very much so. Now, for corporates, having more women on board is not just a nice to have, isn't it? And I'm sorry to have to bring this up. It may sound a little bit condescending, but they are also tangible financial benefits, right?
Yes, no, absolutely. And I think there's been so many research done, right, by Harvard and McKinsey and some other, well-regarded organizations that shows that having a more balanced workforce, right, it drives a culture of an innovation, right, because you have different voices, you have different experiences, different skills, and then can lead to competitive advantage and also has a huge impact on the bottom line. Right, and I think I'm very excited to say that I think there's an article on Forbes last month saying that finally, for the first time, 10% of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies are female. And it's an interesting one. I get excited because it's the first time, but at the same time,
10%.
I get disappointed, right?
10%.
What happened to the 90? Right? So it's a bit of mixed feelings, right? I was reading the articles that starts as great news. I got excited. Yeah, great news. But like, hold on a minute. Yeah, but it's still, we still have a long way, right? But yes, I think it's important to be aware because, of course, if you have female leaders, right, you address the role model, right, challenge because you have that. The way women is more likely to hire and also promote women than men. And even the way they lead, they bring different skills that also helps to make sure the organization is successful in the short, medium, and long term.
The issue of skills is a very interesting one, isn't it? Because we're going to need new skills.
Absolutely.
To enhance innovation going forward and to adapt to this fairly uncertain and complicated world we live in. So tell us a bit more about maybe the skills required to do well as a woman in the field of technology.
Well, the skills are hyper important in the technology business industry anyway, because if you're not developing your skills, if you're just maintaining your skills, you're falling behind. It's the first thing. So anybody in the tech industry, so it's like terrifying changes on a what feels like a daily basis. So you're constantly having to kind of maintain your skills from a technology point of view. But again, it's going back to what Pamela was saying earlier: is pay attention to them. And if you get yourself a sponsor and a mentor, sponsorship I think is probably just as important. But a mentorship is going to help you. It would be a soundboard for you to kind of help you identify, particularly what skills you need to get you to the next step or get you to the next level and help you develop and help you be successful in the workplace. So I think it's paying attention to where you are in your career, what you need to do, and what the next step is. But yeah, in kind of trying to address imposter syndrome is really key. And the best way of doing that is to make sure that you're constantly paying attention to where you are and what you need to do next.
Absolutely. And if I, expand what Julie just said is that, so according to World Economic Forum, right? So there are, top 10 skills that everyone needs to have to thrive, right, in the next few years, given the current climate, right? Things change so much. And if you look at them, they can be classified in kind of 4 areas. So you have problem solving, you have it self-management, work with people, and technology use and development. So when you think about your development, your skills, yes, they're technical skills or business skills, but equally soft skills, or some people like to call essential skills, whatever it might be, right? Because I think particularly as you progress in your career, right, more and more you need to have the kind of negotiation skills, right? Be able to present, confident, managing conflict. So again, it's important for women to think about, okay, what are my technical skills, right? Yes, but also what are the other skills? Because most likely the people skills, the management skills are the ones that are going to help her to progress and elevate other women on the way.
And as you mentioned, skills, of course, there are so many skills required in the tech sector because there are so many careers available to women in the tech sector. It's not just about becoming an engineer or data scientist. You can be so many different things.
It is, and again, I think opening up and helping women realize what careers are available to them within the sector is really important, because it's huge, it's vast. And again, every industry is touched by technology as well. It's not just within the technology industry. But I think going back to what you were saying earlier, I think influence is a huge thing, and communicating to your audience and understanding how to pitch, which sounds like a real sales skill, but it's not. It's kind of how you get your point over and how you bring whatever audience you're talking to with you, which is harder for women to do than men. So again, if you're in a male-dominated environment, so things like, I'll give you an example. So women are told to kind of lean in a bit more and be more assertive and be more direct. But then when you're being aggressive.
Yeah.
So there's this real balance that you've got to find, which is why I think sponsorship and championship within the room is really important. So the people that you work with, but learning how to influence and how to pitch, being fact-driven and data-driven, especially as you're trying to kind of get a point over, I think is really important for women to kind of develop, because it becomes about the information as opposed to who's delivering it.
What brings you here, other than your fantastic journey as a woman in technology, is your partnership with Microsoft. Can you tell us a bit more?
I can, sure. It's just over a year ago, we launched our native integration with the Azure portal. So the Elastic solutions around search, observability, and security, built on the Elastic stack, were integrated natively with the Azure portal. So our customers now can procure, deploy, and manage all through that one centralized location without having to split focus, and it's all through one funnel. And they can also manage everything through there as well. So they can manage the billing and get support all through the single area. The year has been a very busy year. We've had 6 million downloads so far and still counting. So it's been a really exciting year, and we look forward to seeing how we can progress going into the future as well.
And it sounds like both companies, Microsoft and Elastic, are very aligned when it comes to developing that right environment for women to thrive.
Yes, I think I have to say, I feel really lucky to work for a company that really, part of your mission, actually, our mission is about empowering every person, organization to achieve more. And I have to say that it's not just a slogan or just a nice mission statement. We really live it every day. And particularly for women, right? There is some women at work, there is coaching, there is a lot of training on bias, right? Not just gender bias, but also, your orientation, your nationality, if you have any disability, because that really help us to be more inclusive, right? So there's a awareness piece. There is the, okay, let's provide an environment, as you said earlier, which I love, I'll keep using that. Not just invite to the party, but let's dance. And then the individual as well have to take ownership. So I think for me, the three areas is the awareness, that we all together, the organization, and the individual.
Thank you. To wrap up this conversation, any advice for young women out there considering a career in technology? Or maybe, if I may, some advice to your younger self.
So to women who are thinking about technology is to kind of, it's a fantastic career. I've had an amazing journey in tech, and I've been in the industry for 30 years. And try not to think of it as this kind of geeky code. It's not just about the technology, it's about what the technology does. And the fact that it's used in retail, it's used in medical, it's used in police forces use it to help solve crimes. It helps solve to kind of reduce human trafficking. It helps reduce we've got a use case with Renewy who use it to reduce the carbon footprint, which obviously goes back into the IT budget, but it's great for the planet. So there's loads and loads of things, that really cool things that technology does and technology touches, and the societal impact that has. So try and imagine what you could do in that industry. And it's not just about writing code, it's all of the jobs that technology touches as well. What would I say to my younger self? I would say be braver. Say yes when I'm offered an opportunity. Don't doubt myself. Can I try and switch the imposter syndrome off and just step into the breach and just go for it?
Wonderful. Pamela.
Great. Yes, I guess just building on what Julie said, I think absolutely, I think it's important for women, and particularly, the young girls who are considering a career in tech, just be aware that it is an amazing career because you touch every single industry, and the impact that you have is huge, right? Whether it is in education or healthcare, or in manufacturing, about it, saving costs, drive efficiencies, reducing waste, which of course helps with sustainability. It's really, really rewarding. And I feel very grateful because in my role at Microsoft, I work with customers from startups to global companies and the government to show how they use a technology to transform the business and better serve the customers. And you see amazing use cases from helping to accelerated cancer research to even protecting puffins, right? There is one case study, I can share the link later, it's very interesting. So it is really amazing. So yes, explore, there are so many opportunities out there in tech. The second part, my advice is ask for what we wanted. Because again, sometimes in organizations, right, yes, there has to be sponsorship and mentorship, but people cannot read your mind, right? So if you feel like you're ready for the next step, speak to your manager, speak to your sponsor. If you wanted be promoted, say, well, I'd love to be put forward for promotion. And I think advice to myself is, Pamela, be a little bit more patient. Right, I think we're talking about earlier, and I love what you said, Julie, is that, it's really enjoy the journey, right? So every role, every project, every program is not just about, delivering the results and rushing it, but learning, enjoying, be part of this amazing journey.
Pamela, Julie, thank you very much for a wonderful conversation. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.